Hi, I'm Ruel from the Commission for Children and Young People. This is a brief overview of Standard 9. I encourage you to also look at the Commission's online resources for more information and in-depth guidance. If you have a co-regulator, please also refer to their guidance on how to comply with this standard. Overall, the outcome for Standard 9 is that physical and online environments promote safety and well-being while minimising the opportunity for children to be harmed. This standard focuses on the identification and management of risk as an important way for your organisation to prevent child abuse and harm. A risk is the possibility of something bad happening at some time in the future. When the standards refer to risk, it means the chance for child abuse and harm to occur in connection with an organisation. For this standard, you need to think about risks of child abuse and harm to children from your organisation or those involved with it, its services and activities. And you need to think about what you can do to prevent that from happening. Even well-run organisations that follow best practice approaches have some risks for children. For this standard, we will first talk about minimum requirements 9.1 and 9.3, which together are about how you approach risk assessment and management. We'll then talk about specific risks posed by online environments and third parties, which relate to minimum requirements 9.2 and 9.4. Minimum requirement 9.1. Staff and volunteers identify and mitigate risks in the online and physical environments without compromising a child's right to privacy, access to information, social connections and learning opportunities. And minimum requirement 9.3. Risk management plans consider risks posed by organisational settings, activities and the physical environment. These minimum requirements ask you to identify risks of child abuse and harm in your organisation, develop plans on how you will manage the risks, and take action to reduce risks to children. It is important to involve different types of people as you prepare your risk management plans. This includes staff, volunteers, children and families. Different people will look at issues in different ways, identify different risks, and different ways to prevent children from being abused and harmed. Staff and volunteers need to understand risk identification and management so they can work to prevent abuse and harm as part of their everyday practice. It can be helpful to think about risk in these different ways. What activities are children involved in and where might harm or abuse occur? What are the circumstances or characteristics of the children engaging in your organisation that might make them more vulnerable to abuse? Think back to Standard 5 for what some of these circumstances or characteristics might be. What is the profile of the adults who engage with children in your organisation? To understand risk, all organisations must assume that everybody who works with children can pose some level of risk to them. How do characteristics of the organisation, such as its structures, attitudes and practices, affect the risk of child abuse and harm? It is important to balance the need to manage the risk of harm and abuse against the benefits to children of a particular activity or approach. A 5-step process for managing risk is set out in the Guide for Creating a Child-Safe Organisation under Standard 9 that may help you to understand more about risk and create plans to reduce the chance children will be abused or harmed. We've also developed risk assessment and management templates that you can download on our website. Minimum requirement 9.2. The online environment is used in accordance with the organisation's Code of Conduct and Child Safety and Wellbeing policy and practices. Online services for children continue to grow with organisations increasingly using technology. Organisations need to remember to identify and manage the risks online as well, including risks posed by adults and children from the organisation. This includes opportunities for grooming and bullying. Online technologies are constantly changing. Children are often ahead of parents, carers and staff in adapting to these changes. Without dedicated effort by organisations, online risks may not be considered in the same way as physical risks. Your organisation's policies need to clearly address risks of child abuse and harm online. It's important that everyone in your organisation, including children, know what sort of behaviours to expect online and how to raise a concern if they're feeling unsafe. Minimum requirement 9.4. Organisations that contract facilities and services from third parties have procurement policies that ensure the safety of children and young people. Many organisations use services or facilities provided by contractors or third parties. This may bring in unknown people or people without the same child safety screening into your organisation where they could have contact with children. This can be forgotten by organisations in risk assessments, or the organisation assumes the contractor is managing the risk. Your organisation's risk identification and management process should include consideration of the risks that contractors could pose to children. This includes situations like using staff from labour hire companies or hiring out facilities or rooms. It's important not to assume that contractors are safe and have the correct policies, checks and procedures. It is your organisation's responsibility to manage risks to children in your organisation and identify what steps will be taken if the risks are too high. This could mean changing the service provided or terminating the contract if necessary. How do you know if an organisation takes the safety of children seriously? What are some of the things you look out for?
I think there are two ways of looking at how organisations treat child safety when they're working with children and young people. Firstly, it's within what's visible within the organisation. So the obvious signs such as ensuring that they have an up-to-date child safety policy, ensuring that that's communicated to their staff, the families, the children and young people themselves, and making sure that that's always top of mind when running any initiatives or activities with children and young people, but also the things that the general public might not be able to see as well, such as the embedded culture of the organisation, and ensuring that the things that both the visible and the invisible parts of an organisation have framed child safety in front of mind, ensuring that all organisations that work with children and young people know how to keep children safe and how to make sure that their well-being is top priority.
What are some ways children can have a say about what makes them feel safe or unsafe?
Asking the questions around, what do you think about the child safe policy? Do you think we're meeting up to what we've put in this policy or in this document? And if so, what does that look like? Or if not, how can we continue to improve as an organisation? It's really great when organisations collect feedback, but it's even more important that that feedback is acted on and acknowledged. I think for young people, when they see that their contributions are being acted on and that they're forming a valuable part of the organisation, I think that's quite empowering for children and young people, but also something that allows the organisation to have authentic and genuine views on what they need to work on as well, coming from children and young people who are involved with the organisation and are directly impacted by the work that they do. And that could be through informal sit-down conversations over a cup of coffee or over some food or some lunch, or that could be through formal conversations in a workshop that helps to bring children and young people as partners within the organisation to identify where the organisation is at and how they can keep moving forward as well. I like to challenge organisations to consider the development of the online environment, particularly with how children and young people interact with the organisation online. It's really important to remember, whilst we need to ensure the safety and the well-being of children and young people physically within an organisation, we also need to look at what does that look like in an online environment? How can you as an organisation make sure that children and young people who you interact with online remain safe, that their safety is not compromised, particularly when it's an environment that is a little bit less controllable? And how do you as an organisation teach children and young people to develop their digital literacy skills? And how can you support families who may not be as technologically savvy to develop their own digital literacy skills as well?